Hey everyone, wanted to hop on here for a quick live Wednesday update. Just share a couple things I'm working on this week, and maybe get some Q&A if we get some people out there. So we'll see how many of you show up. So this week, one of the pieces of content that I consumed on retirement planning was really great. It was by this channel called Two Sides of Fi. So if you're not familiar with them, you should definitely check them out. They are, I would call it a mid-sized channel. I think about between 30 and 40,000 people subscribe to their content. But it's these two friends. They are on opposite sides of the country. One guy's in Maine, one guy is in California. And they're both kind of in the tech industry. One is, his career was more in architecture. So he's a little bit more, on the artistic side of things. And then the other guy worked in tech. But the guy in tech retired in 2019, and the architecture guy just is stepping into retirement now. He's not fully in retirement yet, but easing his way in. I think he mentioned he has some business interests that he's working on with his wife, and I'm not sure if that's directly related to the YouTube channel. I think it is, but it is really it's really valuable for people to watch who are thinking about entering retirement or in retirement, because you get to see some of your peers go through some of the challenges that you're going to be facing as you make that big transition, right, into a new phase of life. So they went through and put a pretty extensive video out. It was close to 45 minutes long about the challenges they expected with, they said retirement, financial independence, and what the difference was between what they expected and what has actually come to fruition for them so far. So I made some predictions here as to what they were going to say were their anticipated biggest fears. And I'm pretty proud of myself. So I'll go through them. So here's what I guessed before I watched the video, what I thought they would say. So number one would be the market environment changes such that it forces them to return to work. Number two is increased costs damage their plan. Notably, healthcare is the highest probability of that. And three would be general unease with this major life transition. So something, not knowing what to expect, basically. Those are my three guesses. I took some notes as I watched the video. I'm happy to report I basically nailed it. So number one was economic catastrophe is the way they phrased it, making a big dent in their portfolio, forcing them to change their plans. And that was the first thing they mentioned. And I think it's worth pointing out, though, that no matter when you make this transition, there's almost certainly going to be an event that causes you to have this moment of a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear and a lot of doubt and just wishing you had double, triple, quadruple checked your plans. I went back every year, back to 2019, just off the top of my head, what were the market events that happened in each of those years? So 19, you had trade war, market was down 20%. I remember we had a ticker going on the news. It was like just before Christmas, the S&P was down close to 20% for the year. It was not good. Was it 18 or 19? Might have been 18. One of those years there was a trade war and the S&P was down 20%. Didn't look good. 2020, we had COVID. Obviously, everyone remembers that. That was down very quickly, very scary for a lot of people. Don't comment saying, oh, I wasn't scared. Some people were. 22, technology really had a horrible time. I mean, if you look at some of the big tech names, one that stands out in my mind was Amazon was down. I think it was down over 50%, which is kind of crazy to think about. A company that large whose stock was cut in half. It kind of reminds me of the Berkshire Hathaway meetings when sometimes when people ask about expected returns in stocks, what can I expect to earn over the long term? One of the things that Charlie Munger always says was, hey, over the years, our Berkshire position has been cut in half on 3 separate occasions. So if you're not willing to sit through that, you don't earn the right to earn stock returns over the long term. So it was kind of pointed in the way he phrased it. He kind of zinged it back at that person. But really, I mean, that's the risk that you're taking, especially with a company that big. I mean, you can say what you want about the valuation, but to have it lose about 50% of value, crazy. And then the tech overall was down, market was down. And then this year, we've got this in April, we had reciprocal, easy for me to say, tariffs announced, and again, very sharp decline. Now, as we sit here today in early summer, it seems to be back on track. The market's back up, but still a very fluid situation, to say the least. But anyways, yeah, so that was number one. So big market fluctuation, downturn, um, forcing you to have a hard look in the mirror. Have I done enough? I mean, that should be the baseline. You should definitely expect that. It's because it's kind of like Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And especially when you're making that transition, you're going to be so much more in tune with, hey, how's the portfolio doing? Are we on track? What are we, what's going on? So it's really going to bother you from what I've seen when people are going through that stage. And that's what these guys pointed out as well. So number two, health. I said expenses. They mentioned health right away, so I nailed that one as well. Yeah, it's just expensive. I mean, between the premiums and then when you get to the point where maybe you transition to Medicare, if you're not quite 65 yet, you have to really watch your income and make sure you stay under the thresholds for increased premiums amount. Because even if you're just $1 over, in a lot of cases, you can pay a large percentage on that marginal dollar of earnings you show, just based on the premiums you have to pay as it steps up. So have to be very careful there and intentional with what kind of income that you allow to creep onto your tax return a couple years out from retirement. It's so important, especially if you have taxable accounts. If you're making if you have investments that are distributing interest, dividends, or capital gains to you, very important to have a good idea of what those are going to be a couple years out from retirement. Even a year before or a year after, maybe making some changes to impact that. Depends on the sizing. You never want to let taxes drive your investment decisions, but to the extent that it does make sense, you can save yourself a lot of taxes in the form of increased healthcare premiums. So that was the big one that they mentioned. And then three, I would say I still nailed this. So they said expenses that they didn't necessarily plan for, because it gives them these expenses come up. And the fellow who's just entering retirement now, he's got a couple kids in college. So they have done a lot to provide for college expenses, but it's those little things where, hey, something happened with the car. Can you help me out with this? It's all those things that add up, and it adds up to be a meaningful percentage of their retirement. It's the distribution that they're taking off their portfolio. So now he made the point, it all balances out. Some things were lower, so it's not that big a deal, but it does make you a little bit more conscious of, hey, all this is coming from the portfolio, or majority of it's coming from the portfolio. We really have to watch our budget like we didn't have to necessarily when we were working. So make sure you check out that video. It was really good. I'm very thankful that those guys are putting out this content. I think just in general, YouTube is having a really good moment right now for people entering this phase of life. I mean, seems to be a lot of people picking up the camera and kind of documenting what they're facing, how they're approaching this retirement change. And that's only going to be able to provide some more clarity for people that are thinking about doing something similar. So there's a lot of people out there. So if you just Google or YouTube, you'll probably find someone who's kind of in a similar stage of life and similar industry that you were working in that you can follow. So yeah, really good stuff. And then I did want to just talk a little bit more about healthcare in retirement. It seems like it's, taxes is probably the number one biggest concern for people, but healthcare is right up there because a lot of the cost comes from taxes with these Medicare premium adjustments through IRMA. And one of the things that you can do, and I just wanted to remind people of this because it's so important, is if you do find yourself when you are applying to Medicare having to pay higher premiums because your income was a little bit higher, maybe you just missed it by $1, you're facing down higher premiums. There's this form called SSA 44, and you can find that on a .gov website. And basically what it means is if you have a qualifying event, they will change the window that they look back. So normally they look 2 years back. They'll change the window so that you potentially could use a different time period to look at income and potentially save on premiums. So if you haven't done that already, I would highly recommend you do because it could save you a bunch of money. Um, so definitely check that out. And then I am also curious too. I mean, something I've been thinking about as I've been looking at healthcare expenses this week in retirement is, we know the premiums are expensive. We know out of pocket maximums are expensive, when you're before Medicare. But then it's like, what is truly that worst case scenario? If you are using providers that are covered with your plan, what is the most you're going to be on the hook for some of those major things that people are facing, every day in this country, people are facing these challenges. Um, and how big a deal is it really? One of the things I've been thinking about, and it relates to this, is if you are consistently using, you know, hitting your out-of-pocket maximum and then maybe plus, um, you're probably spending less on other things that you might have otherwise been doing. It's probably less travel because you probably don't feel well enough to go do some of those things or experiences. Maybe you do want to gift more to second generation, but that is crossing my mind is, what is that worst case scenario and what should people plan for? And what are some of the things that people are trying that maybe aren't covered by these plans that maybe they should plan for, or are there other coverages available? So that'll be something that I'm really going to be looking at more and trying to work with people on and figuring out the best solutions for that and how to cover themselves. Um, yeah. So with that, looks like it looks like we might do Q&A next week when we got more people, but I'll just leave it there. Just a quick update. Just wanted to say hi to everyone, and hope you're having a good week, and we'll see you later. Look out for new videos coming Friday and Saturday. We've got shorts coming out basically every day, except today it'll just be the live. And then newsletter, make sure you sign up for newsletter. It comes out every Sunday morning. We've got Sunday morning coffee. And yeah, we'll see you. All right. Take care. Bye.